Cornellas Williams was born in 1817. She is the second child of Cornelius and Mary Caesar. In 1835, she was married to a man named Stuart D. Williams. The two of them lived happily. They spent a lot of time reading together. In 1840, Cornella's nephew had passed away. His death shook the entire family. That same year, Cornella had a little girl. Her name was Jasmine. Having her around helped Cornella grieve. But she also worried that her daughter would suffer the same illness. In 1842, Cornella had another baby girl named Dahlia. Then in 1843, they had one more girl. Her name was Lily. Because the girls were close in age, they got along very well. They played together every day. Cornella read her father's book to them along with others. As the girls grew older, they had become even closer. Jasmine and Dahlia had become best friends. Cornella would knit whenever she had the time. She started teaching her daughters the same. Around this time, Cornella's brother Apollo had lost his wife and child. She invited him over to console him. The girls had met him for the first time. Being around them made him feel worse. Cornella wanted him to stay so he wasn't lonely, but Apollo preferred to be alone. After he left, he never returned. Cornella continued to live happily with her family. The girls were getting older and had become more interested in boys. Lily was following in her older sister's footsteps, but she was a lot more naive than them, which led her to a lot of heartbreak. With the girls grown with their own lives, Cornella and Stuart spent more time alone together. In 1860, Apollo had passed away. Cornella visited his grave every day. Other than that, she and Stuart spent the rest of their days reading and knitting. Jasmine Williams was born in 1840. She is Cornella and Stuart D. Williams' first child. As a child, she spent a lot of time at the park with her sisters. They would spend all day playing. There she met a boy named Damien. They played together until it was time to go home. By the next day, they would meet and play again. They were the best of friends. Her sisters were a little jealous of them, because there wasn't a day they wouldn't spend together. One afternoon by the river, he slipped. Jasmine ran to get help while the current took him away. When she came back with his parents, it was too late. In 1852, her friend was gone. Jasmine was devastated and blamed herself for all of it. No matter what her family did to make her feel better, nothing worked. She spent months in her room laying in bed. Her mother would comfort her every day, even when she didn't want it. She eventually started to go out again, but she was still haunted by the loss of her friend. When she was 15, she met a boy named Eugene. He was her first friend since Damien. She was happy to have him. She introduced him to her parents. They accepted him right away. Eugene had a good relationship with her sisters too. In 1857, they tied the knot. They stayed at home with her family. Later that same year, they were expecting. Her family was excited to meet the new baby. Her sisters got many gifts for her. Months later, their little girl was born. Her name was Annie. She was a joy to have around. Everyone had a hand in raising her. Soon Jasmine and Eugene were expecting another. In 1859 they had a little boy she named Damien. That same year Cornella had passed of a sudden illness. Then, a year later Stuart had become terribly ill. He spent a lot of time in bed. While Jasmine cared for her father as best she could, Eugene and Lily helped with the children. It was hard to care for her sick father. There wasn't much she could do. Stuart held on to life for as long as he could. With all the time Jasmine spent caring for him, she missed out on her children. In 1860 he had finally passed off his illness. His death was heavy on the girls, but they were relieved his suffering was over. Jasmine was grateful to have Eugene by her side the entire time. She had more time to spend with her children. Just when the family was starting to grow closer, Eugene was drafted. While he was away, Jasmine wrote letters to him, and he wrote in return. Every night Jasmine feared for his life. She didn't have the strength to lose anyone else. One morning while she was reading his letter, she noticed it was written to another woman. Not just any woman, but her younger sister Lily. Eugene wrote that what happened between them was a mistake. Jasmine didn't know exactly what the mistake was, but she wanted answers. So she marched to Lily's house to confront her. Dahlia Williams was born in 1841. She is Cornella and Stuart D. Williams' second child. Dahlia was close with her sisters. She loved to crack jokes. She lit the room up with her presence. At 16, she had a friend named Elijah who always made her laugh. They were always joking around. They were best friends. Elijah was there for her when her father died. That brought them even closer. Then he made the move that forever changed their relationship. They were married in 1858. The next year, Dahlia was pregnant. The expecting parents couldn't wait to meet their bundle of joy. In 1859, they had a boy named Andrew. He was loved unconditionally. They were a happy little family. Dahlia and her sister would have playdates with their husbands and children every week. In 1860, Elijah was drafted. Dahlia didn't want him to go, but he had no choice. Just after he left, she discovered she was pregnant. They wrote each other letters every day. Elijah would tell her about how horrific it was. Dahlia continued to care for their son, who didn't understand why his father was gone. He would cry for hours and hours a day. No matter what Dahlia would do, she couldn't soothe him. She had many sleepless nights. Between the war, the crying and her pregnancy, she was under a lot of stress. Her sister Lily had come over to help her with the baby. Dahlia was grateful for her help and was finally able to take it easy. But it had been a while since Elijah sent her a letter, and she was worried for him. Soon, she received news that he died on the battlefield. Dahlia was completely numb. Lily looked after Andrew to give her time to mourn. For days she didn't eat or sleep. She was just stuck in a constant state of shock. She was under so much stress that she didn't realize she had a miscarriage. It took her a long time to deal with the loss. It was something she would never get over. But she wasn't the only one who had lost a husband in the war. There was another mourning widow nearby. Her name was Henrietta. The two of them got to talking about how unfair it was to lose a loved one. They reminisced about moments they shared with their late husbands and spoke vows. After that day, the two had become good friends. Dahlia introduced her to her son. They had become inseparable. They spoke every day. Their friendship soon blossomed into romance. They were exactly what each other needed. Lily Williams was born in 1843. She is Cornellas and Stuart D. Williams' final child. As a girl, she always followed whatever her sisters were doing. They were her biggest influences. When they were older, the girls had become more interested in boys. It wasn't long before Lily followed that path. At 15, she met a guy who was a little older than her. He seemed kind at first. He was her first everything. But he broke her heart. Not long after, she met another boy around her age. He always made her feel bad about herself. He soon left her for someone he found to be better than her. Lily felt ugly after that. She didn't think that anyone wanted to love her. Her brother-in-law Eugene reassured that she still had time to find the one, while Lily doubted that she was grateful for his assurance. She helped him look after her niece and nephew, while her sister cared for their sick father. One night while she was out, she danced with a wonderful young man. His name was Griffin Carver. The two of them hit it off. Things were moving fast between them. It was clear that they were both in love with one another. But when he proposed, she declined. Lily wasn't exactly sure how real their love was. Griffin understood that she wasn't ready yet, and was patient with her. He continued to shower her with love. Then when she was ready, he proposed. They were married in 1860. She moved in with him, where they lived happily. They both wanted children and were trying, but they hadn't been lucky. After a year, they realized they were unable to have one. Lily was devastated to find out she was infertile. But that wasn't the worst part. Griffin was struck with an illness that had been eating away at him for several years. His body was unable to fight it anymore. Lily took care of him as best as she could, but he couldn't be cured. She felt incredibly helpless. During that time, she was also watching over her nephew Andrew. Griffin was getting worse every day. He died that year. Lily was heartbroken. She slept on his side of the bed every night. She didn't leave her house in weeks. Her sisters came by to make her feel better, but she really wanted to be alone. Later, Eugene came over to pay his respects. He had also gifted her a kitten to help her grieve. He told her he would be there whenever she needed him, because they were family. It was nice to hear him say those things. Before leaving, she kissed him. He quickly left without a word and was drafted later that week. Lily wrote to him while he was away. She wasn't ashamed for her feelings for him at all. Her sister Jasmine had soon surprised her with a visit. She demanded answers about a letter that Eugene had sent her. Lily told her that it was Eugene who had made the move. Jasmine believed her and was infuriated. Lily managed to get away with her life for a while. She didn't want her sister to know what really happened. Later, Jasmine returned with Eugene and neither were happy. They went inside, where Jasmine explained that Eugene told a different story. She knew one of them was lying and wanted the truth. Lily stuck to her story and claimed it was Eugene who had kissed her. He cursed at her for lying and explained that he would never do that to his wife. Still, Lily wouldn't confess. Jasmine would never know the truth, but she resented them both. They left and never spoke to Lily again. Lily expected Eugene to choose her like he said he would. But in the end, she was left alone. Her sister Dahlia was still there for her, even though she didn't approve of what she did. Lily would spend the rest of her life looking for the love she had with her husband. She would look until she finally passed in 1893.